Hi everyone. Good afternoon. This is 3:35 here. Let me proceed. Yeah, I'm Dr. Kupusami. I hope you would have gone through the recorded slides, and I've gone through quite detailed over there. But I felt that I would like to present in a different way today. So uh, let me run through the slides that are different today. Yeah, different ones. Um, I have given okay. Can anyone let me know whether you can see? Can see, yeah? Can view that? All the slides are in order. All right. Okay. Uh, I usually go through the recorded slides, and since it's already recorded and it's available, so I felt let me try a different method today. And uh, this earlier this afternoon, we had the face-to-face lectures as well, and I have noticed that it became much more interesting doing this way, and I felt yes, this is the way forward. So. In order to understand in greater detail of what we have gone through on what we need to understand in lecture number 5, so I've looked at it from a different angle, from a seriously a different angle. So I felt that let's look at it in this format now, yeah. And after going through this, I think then you can run through the videos, the slides. You may understand better. Okay, and if you still don't understand, perhaps there are some questions you can put it in the group and we can answer in that manner. Yeah. So I call this key points on local government matters. The discussion is heavily focused on Malaysia. Yet we touch on here and there, but I'm not sure our participants online now. Are they all Malaysians? Can I see whether they are Malaysians? One Filipino, one. Okay, at least we have Asan. Okay. All right, let's look at this. All right, in that case, um, well, you see, when you talk about local government, it simply indicates that this is local government forms as the certain tier of the government structure. Then it forms as the third tier in Malaysia. When you say tier, it may many don't may not understand. Um, Government structure of administration, we are not talking about executive, legislative, and judiciary. We are talking about different levels of government, government itself in the country. Yeah. So in Malaysia, for example, we have three-tier government led by federal tier at the first level, followed by state, and the third is the local government tier. Uh, so that's the hierarchy. It also, the tier also indicates kind of hierarchy. And we know that the federal government acts on behalf as for the benefit of the nation to manage the country. The state government at the second tier takes care of state matters, and the third tier, of course, is the local government matters. Um, well, what is important here is my recorded slides discuss a little bit more on how we have had our government structure as it is now. And in some countries, we have more than three tiers. In Singapore, I think there's only one. Earlier this afternoon, we had from Seychelles, the student mentioned there's only two tiers, and and others in Japan we have central government, all right, followed by provincial government, and next comes the local government. And in Japan, Japan is quite a unique situation, shows a unique situation where, in my own experience, after visiting Japan once or twice, I realized that the provincial government as well as the local government there tends to become what you call more stronger than the central government, and central government happens to become to have only a limited set of functions, unlike in Malaysia where we realize that we have too many functions that has been shifted on to the federal government. um, Here, I think that it is due to the historical perspective where the local government structure that we have here is we have got it from the colonial powers that ruled the country. And then there is also the event where Sabah and Sarawak plus Singapore joined Malaya then. Malaya was the Peninsular Malaysia then, and all this joined to form a country called Malaysia in 1963, and followed by Singapore leaving in 1965. Now, we must understand as well that the situation in Malaya before the formation of Malaysia, the federation was formed in 1948 uh, with states. The peninsular states then were divided as into federated Malay states as well as the unfederated Malay states. And uh, putting these two groups together, then we recall the Federation of Malaysia was established. Now, why are we talking about federated Malay states and unfederated Malay states? Only due to the fact that when it comes to local government as well as the civil service, there's some limitations here. Um, Unfederated Malay states such as Kedah, Kelantan, and Johor, all right, and examples of this have got their own civil service, and we call that a closed service. Then what happens is that their civil servants can only be, they belong only to the state concerned, which is in Kedah or Johor or Kelantan. And they can be transferred from one agency to another within the state only. Whereas in most cases in the federated Malay states, their civil servants can be moved from one state to another if the situation permits. Whatever the situation is, um, whether federated Malay states or unfederated Malay states. Okay, federated Malay states are those that are on the opposite side of unfederated, yeah, such as Penang, Perak, Selangor, and the list goes on, yeah. I'll leave that alone, and for the time being, let's talk about local government civil servants. Uh, there is a difference on when it comes to local government. The employees there, they are uh, appointed appointed and taken to serve at the local authority, and they are therefore the local government concerned is their appointing authority, the body concerned. Unfortunately, the system currently does not allow an employee from a local government concern, whichever local government, from local government A to another local government, let's say local government B, be it within the state or outside and to another state. It doesn't allow. So a person who is not satisfied, the civil servant was not satisfied, will have to stay on, or the person has to leave, quit. Yeah. So there are cases where employees they join the local government and either they retire or uh, they leave early out of this world and something like that. Yeah. So they cannot move to another. So whether they are federated or unfederated, it doesn't make any difference when it comes to local government civil servant matters. All right. Now in Malaysia we have um, a sizable civil servants, more than almost close to 1.7 million. I may be wrong. Um, and out of the population of about 34 million, the 34 million, I always say 32 because about 2 million or so are foreign workers. All right. So normally that's not looked into. Uh, Civil servants in the federal level, they are called federal civil servants. Then you also have the civil servants at the state government level, and they belong to the state government. Similarly, I think the civil servants at state government level, whether they are federated or unfederated, they cannot be shifted to any other states, but they can be shifted within the state to any other departments. Yeah. So over the years, now with the formation of the Federation of Malaysia, Malaya, then we by the time there was more than 330, if I'm not wrong, local governments in the peninsula alone, or in Malaya. And to take note, before we move on to the next slide, it's important to take note that the first ever election in the country was established um, in Penang in 1801 with the establishment of the sanitary board. Yeah, and from a very few numbers, these numbers increased to a sizable number to be called councillors, and this continued until around the 1950s. And KL had its election in 1955, if I'm not wrong. Uh, Take note that first ever election in the country was by local at or was at the local government level. Only then this expanded to state government as well as the federal government over the years. But unfortunately, due to the usually they call this the reason behind what happened was the election at the local government level was halted for the time being at that point of time 1963 due to the confrontation between Malaya and Indonesia with due to the fact that Sabah and Sarawak were to join the peninsula, in addition to Singapore. Of course, that's a different issue. And that caused the confrontation. And for some reasons, election at local government level were stopped. And by 1965, 2nd March of 1965, officially the whole idea about election at local level, local government levels ceased to exist. And with then there came there was a study at the parliamentary level to study on the need for the re-look into the working of all the local government in the peninsula, especially, and by a select committee. And if I'm not wrong, it's in 1968, and they took a few years to come up with a proper study. And by 1970, there was a document among which proposed that local government election to be reinstated for to elect councillors. But the country and the parliament did not agree to onto that. Various other factors were taken in, or proposals were accepted, except this. Uh, among the working arrangement of this committee, select committee, was to establish a proper working legal documents that would that would govern the local the working of or the arrange how local governments were to operate. Before that, it was all as to that emulated how a British system worked, and from the 300 something local governments, many were consolidated, small ones put together or small ones put together with another larger ones for sustainability and for fiscal, what do you call, financial strength. And from 300 something, the numbers came down to 96 or 97. All right, and that means that from four has become one, reduced that much. And so what we have now, I think I've already provided the link to the number of local authorities in the country, and in the WhatsApp group this morning. And the outcome of the working arrangement of the local government, as I mentioned just now, by the select committee, there was three local government acts. One is Local Government Act 1976, we briefly call Act 171. Second is Town and Country Planning Act 1976, that is Act 172. And lastly, Streets, Drainage and Buildings Act 1974, which is Act 133. The first act that that was established was the Act 133 in 1974, followed by the other two later. But among the three, Local Government Act 1976 is the most important, because that takes care of how the local authority or the local government were to operate, and the empowerment, who does what, and how were the local councillors to be elected or to be, sorry, by the time there's no more election, and how are they to be appointed, the total number, and so on. Nevertheless, if you notice, this is what I've been talking about is only for Peninsular. Similar acts like this, you have that for Sabah and Sarawak respectively, because with the formation of Malaysia in 1963, Sabah and Sarawak were given the special powers to determine their own way of conducting things. Therefore, they have their own local government legislations accordingly at the respective states. Yeah. Okay, let's move on. So with that basic understanding, okay, let's move on to the next slide, which is now need for local government. Everybody understands that whatever happens in front of us and in front of our residents, wherever we stay or wherever we operate, it all deals with, most important is a day-to-day matters that relates to local government and how local government manages the areas in front of us or the activities that's going on. And therefore, it's a grassroots government, closest to the people, and it also is part and parcel. We must also recognize that one of the major contribution is in its role in when urbanization takes place. Urbanization may take place on its own, but it has to be managed, and the authority concerned to manage urbanization is local government. For example, if you notice the current rates in the year 2020, ASEAN achieved 50%. Singapore 100, obviously it's a very small island. Brunei 78.3, Malaysia 75.3, and so on, including Germany 77.5, Cambodia and Myanmar and Timor-Leste, they have established something around 33, 31, 32% or less. Now, what does this urbanization simply mean? It simply means when you talk about urbanization rate, the rate that we talked about just now, it simply indicates that there are two factors. One, the establishment of an area that is called urban, and the balance is called rural. And second, you must have a total population number that is established through census activities kind of stuff. From that census, the government will be able to, governments are able to establish, to identify what proportion of the total population occupy spaces in urban areas. So, in other words, in ASEAN, 50% of all total population of ASEAN stay in urban areas. That's how it is read. If you look at Timor-Leste, 31.3%, simply it means that um, 31.3% of total population can be found in urban areas in Timor-Leste. In other words, 75.1% of total Malaysian population are in urban areas. Now, when you look at that major title is need for local government, because one another factor is that urban urbanization takes place on its own or by policy generation or stimulus packages and kind of stuff, and it's also due to the role of the private sector in its development. So there within one particular district you may have various urban centers, and some very active, some very highly developed, some less kind of stuff. Now, and this kind of urban development can continue to take place, will continue to take place due to various reasons. But let's put that aside. With those, the pockets of urban centers coming in, then the role of local government has to come in to manage, to regulate, and to administer the urban centers. And when it grows big, then you mention that as township, large towns become cities, and so on. So, due to rapid urbanization, cities become larger cities. And if you are interested, you can go into different definitions of cities, different classifications of cities, including mega cities and so on. Let's put that aside. Yeah. Now, with more and more people moving into urban areas, naturally, because urban areas provide them better facilities, better employment, uh, better what do you call infrastructure, and so on. Uh, Therefore, there is more people moving into urban areas. I just posted up there under the second bullet the proportions that reflect 1 year alone. Okay, but if there are data that we can, if you are interested, we can check that in 2010 or the year 2000 and 1990 and so on, we can see the growth in the proportion of people staying in urban areas. Simply indicates that migration of people from the rural areas to the urban areas for various reasons we have discussed. But and on top of that, don't forget there are also influx of people, foreign citizens into this country for various reasons, especially mainly for employment purposes. They are also part and parcel of the population when the census is conducted. So, in other words, we will see that what happens in the rural areas, the only the older citizens stay, and the younger ones move on to the urban centers for to continue their education, higher education especially, and eventually they find employment also in either the same place or in another urban area. And once they do that, they set up their family, and then you notice that this out migration has taken place from rural to urban cities. Now, this also relates back to economic development and infrastructure. Planning is important. Infrastructure is not only provided by local government, but it's also provided by, especially by the federal government, a lot by federal facility, and its functions, and supported by the local government and the state governments. Beyond all these things, I put the last bullet there, urban planning. Urban planning comes under local government. Let me go back to this slide. If you look at the two bullets from the bottom, Town and Country Planning Act 1976. This is where an act of parliament was established to manage the planning aspects. And if it comes to development, both the Town and Country Planning Act as well as the Streets, Drainage and Buildings Act 1974 comes into being. All right. All right. So therefore, urban planning, it becomes the most important, one of the most important role of local government at at the local level, at your city, wherever you are. All right. Now, therefore, when as a continuation from here, when cities that are small, small towns becomes larger towns, become cities, and when like in the Klang Valley where Kuala Lumpur is, Selangor and a few other states neighboring it, we find that areas that are governed by local governments such as City Hall of Kuala Lumpur, um, we have City Council of Petaling Jaya. We have on the southern part, we have City Council of Subang Jaya, followed by City Council of Shah Alam, and recently City Council of Klang. If you notice, if you have an opportunity to look at a map, is already a continuum, in a continuum. So if this continues, eventually this continuum may expand further down south or to the north, or it can expand on both sides, on the left and right. Now, this is what we call urban conglomerates. All right, or sometimes we call it urban conurbation. Conurbation. It simply indicates that all these areas that used to be smaller pockets of areas that were governed by local government before can now be seen as a continuity in continuity, and therefore there comes issues as to how to manage uh, uh, conformity of certain issues across the different areas or different council, city council areas that I have given just now. Now, as a result, I have always been professing, saying that eventually these areas will have its own a higher authority. Something, okay, if you happen to go to Bangkok, this thing has taken place before, that now there is such thing called Bangkok Metropolitan Council. All right. So similar things may happen here in the Klang Valley. I can see that also happening at Johor, where there are already a few city councils in its place now. Now, while we look into that, maybe you might be confused. What are we talking about? City council and so on. Now, in terms of structure of local government, there are mainly three different types. At the lowest level, I've shown you in a diagrammatical form how local governments have been established. I've sketched some diagrams there from let's talk about a state. Yeah, within a state, each states are divided into different districts, and then under the colonial administration, district officers manage the whole district, and they also take care of land matters. And district officer is also the person, something like we say liaison officer of the district with the sultanate of the state. All right. So he is the one who is communicated with or communicates with the royalty, and also between royalty and the people. Now, as the population, the people start staying in certain pockets of areas in the district, then we realize that the smaller population slowly over time increases. That becomes a small town. Let's call it a small town. Small town then slowly grows into pockets of small towns, and the state government will then think maybe it's best now we need to give them the people who are staying in the pockets of the small towns, as we named it just now, better services. These better services are to be provided by local government, not under the district council. District, sorry, not district, sorry, district office. District only office only manages simple matters such as simple roads, drainage, and perhaps managing any disasters like floods. That's it. So they, and most of the time, they don't even manage rubbish collection, okay, solid waste disposal as well. So as these pockets of townships grow, then the under one district, the state government establishes local government. Don't forget, when the local government area expands, it will be at the expense of reducing size of the area that comes under district office. So this is already provided in the slides. Go through that, please. Now, so all starts as at the lowest level, as the state government will establish a district council as the lowest lowest local government uh, category. Yeah. Now, as the cities, as the township grow to big towns and so on, I've also sent another link this morning. What are the criterias for to establish a city council or municipal council or district council? Then let's say when a municipal council, if a district council already has got 150,000 people staying in its area, and I think if I'm not wrong, over 100 million ringgit Malaysia a year as revenue, then this district council will be elevated to a higher status, which is municipal council. Now, likewise, if the municipal council now, after many years, and it has captured, it contains population of minimum 500,000 and a certain million in revenue, then it will be elevated to a city council. Now, uh, who does this work into upgrading from district council to municipal to city council? It will be by application of the state government to the federal government, and this is captured under the Local Government Act 1976, Act 171. Now, if you notice on my third bullet from the top, I have another category called modified local authorities. Modified local authorities is a local authority established by the state government for a certain reason, because to establish a proper district council or whatever council requires legal status and all those things, very much documentation approvals at higher level, and the categories called district, municipal, and city. The awarding of this status is done and given by the Ministry of Housing and Local Government at the federal level. All right. It's only that we are talking only about status. Yeah. And state governments can establish a temporary local authority called a modified local authority. For example, if state government wants to establish a new area that they want to spur the economy and they need more investors to come in, so they will establish a temporary or a special purpose vehicle we call a local authority temporarily under section, one of the sections in Act 171, empowered to the state government to do so. And when the time comes, when this modified local authority has got its capacity to run properly, to be operated properly, then it can be elevated to a district council or municipal council or city council accordingly, and must be approved by the king as well. All right, and then let me move on. Now, uh, having understood the nitty-gritties of the different types of local government, we must also understand the main coordination with the other agencies at local level. When we talk about local government, we must also realize that local government, okay, let's say manages one whole area. In the slides, in the recorded slide, we have talked about not every inch under the district belongs to local government, but in certain states it has been done that way. In most other states, no. So most other states, they always feel that only a developed area is given. um, Okay. Okay. Mary, please run through the link. Click on the link I gave this morning. There are four. Okay. Modified local authority. One is Putrajaya, Perbadanan Putrajaya. Another one is Perbadanan Labuan. Um, and one or two others. Yeah, it's in the link there. Yeah. Um, Okay, let me go back to this, that when we talk about the whole district, not every inch is given or assigned to the local authority, but in some states, over time, development has taken place, and some states feel that, no, let the local authority take care of the whole district. So what happens to the district office? District office still is still there, and they are more into liaising with the royalty, as well as they take care of land matters. Land matters does not come under local government. All right. It is purely and still stays as the agency established by the state government. If you look at the topic on decentralization, I've talked about this. Yeah. Now, local government is also a decentralized form. Ours is a political decentralization. All right. Go through that slides, you will understand that better. Now, coming back to the fact that local government area manages this area in one particular district. The same district will also have many other agencies that belong to federal government or the state government. All right. Yeah, I give you an example. In one township, you have police. Police belong to the federal government. The local government has got nothing to do with policing. They only have enforcement officers to enforce parking charges and kind of stuff, things like that. Now, hospitals come under federal government, but they operate also. You have district office that belongs to government at the local level. So we also have land matters. Therefore, you have land office, district and land office at operating at your own district. So, in other words, apart from local government, there are also many other agencies carrying out their respective duties at the local level. And therefore, there requires a lot of coordination between these agencies in the interest of local development. Okay, the next issue is all about councillors. Now, Act 171, Section 10 already talks about councillors and how they are being to be elected, or to be of course there's no election already since 1965, and how are they going to be appointed, kind of stuff, how many to be appointed. So in each of the district of the local authority or local government, um, in the peninsula, the state government can establish up to 24 councillors. And how they are appointed. Usually, the state government will look at the political, the strength of the political parties during the general election, and from there, the winning parties will then provide a list of their proposed members to be councillors. So let's say in that area, in that district, three political parties have shown significant influence. Therefore, the three will then provide the list. Obviously, the other parties also will provide, but it's up to the chief minister to decide to accept or not. And this will then represent the chief minister will then decide final list of 24 councillors. These 24 councillors will then be assigned to the local authority as councillors for a given period. In some states, they are given only for 1 year, subject to renewal for the next year and every year renewal. In some places, they are given time until first appointment is for 2 years, subject to renewal and so on. And in the past, I have, during my research and all that, whatever I could do, I have pressured on the state governments to ensure a minimum appointment of 2 years. Now, imagine in 1 year, a new councillor has been established, and the person will be just looking around and trying to learn what is happening. All right, and if you in all over the world, why people want to become councillors? Because councillors is the first step to become a politician. Then from there you move up, and there are so many examples within the country as well as in overseas, including in the British government. Many of the prime ministers in the past have also become councillors, then became executive councillors at the state level before they moved up to be ministers and so on to become prime ministers. I'm not talking only about Malaysia, but all over the world. Then we also have what you call, and therefore, when you have, going back to the councillors, appointed councillors, therefore, will be very much, they feel responsible to the political masters who have nominated their names. Therefore, if they come under one political party A, therefore, if you ask them, I have done a study before, and I have evidence to even documented that showed that who are you responsible to? Instead of saying to the people, they openly say they are responsible to the political masters. Second, the people only come somewhere at the lower in terms of importance. That's how it is. That will be different if it is elected local councillors, which is what a few of us have worked on. I think I've slowed down on this, but Professor Wong Chin Tuat is still into this and trying to pressure the government to bring back local government elections, to let the people elect the councillors rather than being appointed. Now, next we have challenges therefore, with all these backgrounds, you must realize that urban governance itself is in a lot of experience a lot of challenges. Why? Because it has to be managed and by the local government as the first tier government facing development at the local level itself. Beyond this, only certain matters go to land matters to the state government or any other matters at the federal government level. Now, let's think about, before we go through the last bullet, let's say earlier this afternoon this question arose, so I would like to share here again. Let's say what does the local government do in terms of planning? At the state government, they come in terms of planning. The state government comes up with something called structure plan. It's all emulated from UK and of course in Australia as well. You have the structure plan. All the districts within a state are being studied, and in detail for over a year by professionals, and they come up with eventually to say that okay, from existing whatever situation is in every district, what else should be done in the respective districts. For example, Patalinjaya might be suggested, I'm just giving an example, that it should become city for universities, or city for medical services, city for another service kind of stuff. And this will relate back to availability of land for the said proposal. They cannot simply say a district should be like this, but they will always check whether it will can be supported by the existence of land, and therefore the state government, the structure plan will identify pockets of land in a macro perspective that would support that, and therefore let's stop there. We take that to next level. Let's say at the district level, uh, we have something called local plan. Now, local plan, okay, before I end just now, the structure plan eventually will come up with policies for this respective cities and what should be done, kind of stuff. And at the local level, at the district level, each district usually will have one local plan. And this local plan will work for about 15 years, 1 5. Okay, and when the local plan is being examined and drawn, they will have to fall back onto the structure plan to see what has been assigned to this particular district, so that it will support the goals of the state government as well as the goals of the national or the of the country. Now, from there, this will be transferred to availability of land in more detail. They will zoom into each of the land lots, including yours and mine. And from there, they will also look into areas that can befit the policies concerned. For example, places for universities, places for medical services and kind of stuff, be it by the government or by the private investment. Now, having said that, it becomes a document, and once this is, then it is published, publicized to the people, and people will come and look at their area, their land, what happens to the land, what has been planned for their surrounding and kind of stuff. People can object if they don't agree or something, and then this goes through a process of engagement. Finally, everything is in order, then the document called local plan will be gazetted, but not always. Once it is gazetted, it is a legal document. If it is not gazetted, uh, anybody can make changes along the way, all right, within the 15 years. Whereas if it is gazetted, then let's say there comes a new, some major development that that does not fit into what was planned, it has to be taken back to the state government to undo the gazettement, make the changes, and then repackage back as a what you call a gazetted document. Now that explains the whole big scenario. Move on. Let's move on next. Now, in at the local level, then private developers will look at their land or availability of certain plots of land. They will buy that land from the state government, because land belongs to either private or belongs to the government. Then if it's government, they have to buy the land from government. If it is from private sector, private ownership, then they go and buy, so that they have large pieces of land, and then they start with their planning purpose, which must fit into the planned goal in the under the local government. If it's meant for universities, it has to be universities. It's planned for housing, it has to be housing. If it's planned for mixed development, it can be for housing and commercial, for example. Now, with that, developers will then purchase this land, then they come up with their ideas, this in document form, which they submit to the local government, which they call it planning permission. they apply for planning permission. Once the planning permission comes, is approved with or without conditions, then the next step is the developer prepares the building plan. Remember the Okay, remember, let me go back. See, look at this on the last bullet, Streets, Drainage and Buildings Act. Under the Building Plan as well as the Town and Country Planning Act, this plan, this idea about approval will be given. All right. So many documentation, some large development will require environmental impact assessment. Currently, we also do the requirement of for social impact assessment, and maybe sometimes in large cities then it requires traffic impact assessment in areas that borders with the seas or shorelines. They also requires the fisheries impact assessment, marines impact assessment, and so on. Now, that depends on case by case basis. Then, now with that, you can imagine the kind of pressure that and the role of local government or the function that it has been assigned to local governments. All right. Now, with that, we must realize that what happens in one local government area may not apply in another. Therefore, policies that apply in one local government area cannot be assigned to another. And the second, constantly changing environment. Areas in some places things are changing differently. It attracts certain kind of industries, whereas another attracts in certain types of agricultural activity, and we cannot equate them together as similar. They will require different impetus, different stimulus packages and kind of stuff, policies, yeah. And therefore, it all then boils back down to the role of local government in terms of planning and managing that area to support that kind of development that is in front of them. Unfortunately, we also have within local government, we also have departments which feels that which feel that their roles are only theirs, and the next department, neighboring department within the organization, should not what you call interfere in the way they carry out with their duties. So working in silos, in other words, within local government, we still have this kind of mentality where one department does not feel comfortable when it's asked to do certain things that another department is proposing. Um, uh, and, 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 and in recent times, not within 1 2 years, but in maybe more than one, maybe up to 2 decades in the past, we find that local government officers, not only local government officers, any government officers in any of the different tiers, uh, we hardly see them out in the open. They expect complaints to come to them before actions have been taken. So this goes against this idea view, the view that proactive versus the reactive way of conducting or doing their providing their services. So when they wait for complaints to come to take care of certain matters, to address certain matters, that's reactive. Whereas when it's proactive, that means local government officers or any other tier government officers, they go down and find out what's happening on the ground at least once a week or once in 2 weeks, for example. At least they will know then what actions to be taken. But it's not what is happening. Unfortunately, Malaysia has moved along the reactive kind of action taking rather than being proactive. But proactive can also be in the form of local plans that I've just mentioned just now. Local plans are plans that are planned in very detail, in a very detailed manner. It consumes a lot of energy. So many people's officers and the public are involved in getting and planning ahead as to what needs to be done. Okay. Then there's also fixated planning mindset. There certain things can only be done in a certain way among certain officers. Yeah. And big data. I purposely mentioned this here. Big data in about 10 to 15 years ago, big data used to be a big topic. And now we don't hear that very much. All we hear is all about AI, is artificial intelligence. Before this was AR. And coming back to AI, I always make fun of this by saying that AI refers to Anwar Ibrahim, unfortunately. Well, the whole idea about big data is very important in the sense that the whole idea about AI and big data are slightly different. Big data is all about what's happening on the ground. In Petaling Jaya, I think in 2 years back, it was last year when the mayor mentioned that they will not need anymore that many complaints to come from the public to repair certain roads. Whereas the function of big data itself will allow them to come up to identify the need for repairing certain roads on the spot. So potholes will be the complaints about potholes will become history. That's the use of big data. Whereas until today, I don't see that coming, unfortunately. Okay, coming back to the next one, coordination with agencies of higher tiers. I've already discussed this earlier. Remember, we talked about various authorities, agencies operating in the same district. Then local government as agent of economic catalyst. I would like to emphasize here the last bullet here that when we talk about local government, local plan just now, it's already come up with the documents. Some local authorities move forward a little, the step forward to identify potential developers who invite them and give them a briefing that there are certain areas that has got this land, that land kind of stuff, and see whether any of them are interested. Basically, this is to instigate or to attract their attention that there are opportunities for them. But doesn't mean that they can do anything as they want. So everything has to be documented, and each of the developer can provide certain what do you call proposals, and each of the development may invite so many proposals, and finally something comes in and accepted. For example, now that can also go into public-private partnership. That is another area of my expertise. I have published a few times. That is another topic altogether. Now, in other words, what I'm trying to say here is local governments can prepare the local plans and just leave it like that. Let private developers look at it on their own at their own pace, or they can take another step, which is they can invite, they can draw, they can become the catalyst to invite economic what do you call development in that area. So this is again, yeah, right. But depends. We are not saying that all local governments do that, and in some urban centers are locus for urban services and economic activities. Don't forget, when you have people moving from the rural to urban areas, they move on for only for employment opportunities. They all go for economic activities. There, it also becomes influx the areas where there are influx of migrants, and most housing estates are take place in housing in urban areas, not so much in the rural areas, unless it is the policy of the government to establish housing in rural areas. Why people do not go into rural areas or plan rural areas? Because it may not be so attractive. Number two, there you must draw in public transportation to those places, and the distance between the urban centers and the nearest urban centers and to the rural area could involve certain kilometers in distance, that will be cost for people. So, and for electricity supplies, water supplies, and sewerage and many other infrastructure development will increase the cost of bringing that requirement into the rural areas to develop that area is very high. Most of these agencies or the service providers shun away from doing that. Therefore, you end up having housing development in urban areas. And do not forget, urban centers are new growth nodes. And lastly, we take note also, I would like to end here by saying, not only looking at within the district, local government has to look into what are the state policies, state government policies that must be adhered to, and everything must be agreed with the local plan and the structure plan, and various policies that are established at the local level. And on top of that, it cannot contravene at any policies of the state or the national policies. And therefore, it has to take care of this. But on top of that, local governments are also required to adhere to certain policies that are what you call climate change, for example. It is not a national federal government policy alone, but it has to be agreed upon and then brought down to state government. State government agrees, and then from there, state government will impose that on local governments to implement. Now, with that, I think I end this session. Would there be any questions? I would like to go through the assignment questions, yeah? Before I stop share first. Before any questions, let me see if I can look at the questions. Okay, the questions here, for this part here, I have provided 2 questions. You can answer either one in part B, question number 5, or number 6, or both. It's not very slippery here.
Yeah, because the glass, you tried.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's long enough. Okay, I got it. All right, the first question number 5. In the recorded video and the slides, a few slides talk about different models, local government models. I need you to look into all the models, and there can be more than the models described in the lecture. You can look at one of it and propose that particular model could be a better model than what has been in practice currently at one of your, you can call this larger city or any of the large cities in your own respective countries. If it is Malaysia, for example, is there a particular model that is better than, for example, City Hall of Kuala Lumpur, or City Council of Petaling or any of these city councils? We are not talking about the smaller cities, yeah? I mean the municipal councils or district councils. Ask yourself, why would it fit better in current times than what is being practiced? Only original answers are required. Do not use Wikipedia, etc., or AI. This we can detect very easily. We need your arguments only. All right. Why do you propose a model A? For example, a strong mayor model. All right, should be proposed. You are proposing strong mayor model as against on the weaker mayor model, and which is one of the models that I've drawn there. The question number 6 is, as the lower tier of government structure, determine the conflicts and limits of local government in your country vis-a-vis the higher tiers of government. Number 6 relates very much into what has been spoken during session just now. All right. Number 5 is very much, you can link number 5 with what we have discussed and from the slides. But for number 6 is very much what I presented today. All right. So if you do not go through the recorded slides or this recorded lecture now, you will find difficulty in answering any of these questions. Okay, I stop here. Would there be any questions? Oh, let me see. Is there an example of, oh, done already? I've answered. Then an example of modified local authority. All right. Along the way, if there's any other important documents, I will share in the group, WhatsApp group. Okay.
So I got a question, sir. Can I ask you a question?
Yes, please. Go ahead, carry on. Who is
My
speaking?
my name is Hatta, sir.
Hatta, yes. Hatta Hussein.
Yes, sir. I'm an old man.
Okay.
So I like to quote. I like to quote one article from the Age publication last year in 2024. Now the quotation goes something like this: more than 60%, 660, yeah, more than 60% of buildings in our country no longer meets safety codes, energy efficiency, and
Okay.
the building safety regulations.
All
And
right.
yet, these buildings will be in use until at least the year 2050.
Okay.
So this sounds like an issue to me. There seem to be how would I say, a lack of definition of buildings that can be categorized as legacy or old buildings. I mean, there's no formal definition, and it's different from one country to another. But the fact is, refurbishment tends to be more environment friendly than demolition and reconstruction. I think
Okay.
this has been proven by quite a number of research. And refurbishment brings about the adoption, implementation of IoT, AI, and all the technologies, and it preserve legacy buildings that have historical value. Now, I understand there are some, especially in Penang, that has already been declared as UNESCO heritage, but there are a lot of other buildings. I mean, in Kuala Lumpur, in Johor Bahru, in Penang, in the East Malaysia, that has considerable heritage building, but are in danger of being demolished and reconstructed. So I guess the loss, we are talking about two losses here. Number one, the loss of the heritage value, and number two, demolition. As we know, demolition and reconstruction contribute significantly towards carbon. I think it has been proven in quite a number of studies that refurbishment contributes towards SDG 9, which is innovation, SDG 11, sustainable cities, and also SDG 13, if I'm not mistaken, climate action, because by avoiding demolition and reconstruction, it cuts down a lot of carbon there. So my question to you, if we are thinking of suggesting to the government to implement a policy where we try to save, we try to save existing building as a first priority before allowing it to be demolished and reconstructed. How do we start, sir? How can we advise the government to give a priority to refurbish old buildings? That's my question. Thank you. Sorry for the long question, sir.
No. I think I'm trying to strategize how to answer this question. Okay, because beyond all these questions, I think, and your observations, there's something else that is very hot at the back, which is the proposed Urban Renewal Act, correct? And that is already proposing, the whole idea is all about, the major part of it is all about demolishing and coming up with redevelopment of the, what do you want to call this, let down areas. And I think in the past, Malaysia, as I'm not sure what's your background, but this is my experience working with the government as well as the local government, what do you call, circles. We noticed that uh, Malaysia, unfortunately, is not good at maintenance. I'm not
Completely,
sure.
I agree, sir. I completely agree with you.
So when it comes to, it's very formal, it's very common to see new development taking place and a lot of money put in, but there's almost none in plan or put in plan to address the issue about how to maintain the properties
True.
thereafter, especially when it relates to government assets. And along this line comes public housing as well, and public roads and all those things. Now, when it comes to this, there comes as an easy way out of everything to say we have failed in maintenance, we have failed into maintaining certain assets and kind of stuff, as if there's no solution to that. So many take the idea that let's okay, we look at those public housing that are about 30 to 40 years or so, or look very what do you call it, requires a lot of maintenance. Their lifts do not function well, and people mentality and all those things. I think you have this idea in when you raise this issue. I think what is important, sorry, to answer your question, maintenance is, I think, is already as in part and parcel of the Urban Renewable Act bill that is has been tabled twice. uh, Maintenance itself is already in the first step, and then only when there's no way about maintenance, and if maintenance is going to fail, sorry, to rectify certain things, I'm talking about that one, and if that is seem to go towards, let's say it will fail, and the next step is to demolish this whole building and come up with new buildings. This is what I have run through, I've come across, and this is still being debated. And to me, it's very highly politicized. I'm a little bit more inclined to URA 60% because there are many areas that have been neglected because of due to our own nature of weakness in maintaining, continuous maintaining. It shouldn't be maintained every 5 years or every 10 years. It should have been maintained every year on using a certain allocation kind of stuff, plus the attitude of people put in place. I'm also a person who supports the LA21 long time ago under UNDP. That when it was launched, there was a lot of emphasis given on to people's role in maintaining and to support local governments in their area and facilities as well. But local governments whom I've met with, not all, some are okay. Generally, they are not in favor of assigning certain responsibilities or the certain assets to be or facilities to be managed by the resident associations, for example, in this country. So again, there's a lot of resentment between both sides. Uh, I'm not sure whether I've answered your question, but I think that's the way forward, and we have to accept the URA, you want it or not. But the nitty-gritty and the working arrangement has to be dealt with. I think this is where the Director General of Planning Department in Town and Country Planning Department has been working on. Uh, okay, Hata?
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, shall I stop here? All right. Thank you. All right. Please listen to the recording of my slides as well as this one before you answer the assignments. Thank you. think there was.
That's fine.
No, you start again.
Hello. This is yours or this is ours,
Contribution.
right?
Same as yours, yeah.
This is H.
Oh, it's a different one.
Hatta.
Oh, okay. Right. How come I didn't see? I say, that's fine. Right. Okay. I will show exam questions.
Oh,
Okay.
my slides are still on.
Yeah, it's okay.
If you still share.
Oh,
No, I think it's this one is. I don't know why
Yeah.
this one is not working.
okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Hello, everyone. Hi. Bye-bye. So this is the assessment. We have postponed the date at the request just now in the track 1 class from Sunday midnight to Thursday midnight. So you have 4 longer days to do. It's only 3 videos. You have to produce a video of 5 minutes, but remember this is a writing exercise actually. So the idea is for you to figure out what you want to say, then organize your idea into PPT, then do your oral narration. And when your video is done, before you post it to YouTube, you should do a synopsis, a write-up to attract your potential viewers. So you have to answer one question at least from part A and part 2, and then the third one you can choose from either. So let me explain my 4 questions here. The first is to assess the applicability of political equality in public life. If you remember, that is actually lecture 2. Who among citizens are not recognized as political equals in the democracy? Why? Now, from there, you can then identify the fundamental argument against political equality and democracy. So the 3 questions marked are linked to each other. Second question is to review what the British constitutional thinker Walter Bagehot's argument. He said that constitutional monarchy is more superior than presidentialism because the head of state and the head of government are not the same person in constitutional monarchy. Now, how is his insight operationalized? What I mean is like, he is saying that, we need to separate it so that what, right? I want you to figure out what was his message there. Why is it that British monarchs would not be hated? What's the main reason as compared to, say, an American president? So use this to look at some successful constitutional monarchies where their kings or queens are well beloved. Look at their behavior. How do they actually make sure people do not want to turn their kingdoms into a republic? The third question is to look into whether decentralization would encourage or discourage separatism of a region that's already feeling being shortchanged in the existing country. What needs to be done then in decentralization if you want to introduce that? Appraise the situation in a specific region or state that you know. So Malaysia has the same problem, but you can do any country that you like. You don't have to pick on a single one. The fourth question is to investigate why gender and other quotas are easier to be implemented in electoral system with multi-member constituency than in electoral system with single-member constituency. So you can expand from that explain basically is electoral system. So if you talk about electoral system in multi-member constituency, you might want to go to detail. This is exactly what we're going to cover now. Can everyone see the slide? Could someone say something so I know that you are actually seeing it?
Yes, we can see, sir.
Yes.
All right, okay. Now, we have about 45 minutes. And the slides, I have further updated than what I have shared with you because I think some of the things is more interesting to bring to your attention. And the videos is ready. Sorry about not uploading it earlier because that I wanted it to be shorter, but it's still about 1 hour, about 45 minutes. So this is, I'll go a bit fast. We're basically going to look into electoral system, a topic that many people think that is very technical, but I'm going to show you, if you can remember these 5 elements, you'll be able to recognize most of the electoral system. In this lecture itself, I'm going to show you 4 electoral system prototype and a hybrid. So when normal humans competitions, we always look at the winners. But in democracy, you have to look at the loser. Why? Because democracy is power of the people. So even the loser are part of the people. Then the question to ask is that how many people can lose because they don't have power, right? While democracy remains power of the people. And this leads us to 3 notions on how do we look at winner. Plurality means that the winner just have to be stronger than any other. So, and as long as you're stronger, then you can win. You don't even have to be supported by more than half of the population. How many people can lose then? There's no upper limit. If you have 10 candidates going into a contest, and their strengths are comparable, then you could have close to 90% of the voters being the loser. Majority requires the winner to beat all other contestants combined. So this is to make sure the loser cannot join force at one day and claim that they're the new majority. So this is to give the winner a stronger legitimacy. And the number of losers would be maximum would be 50% minus 1. Finally, we come to proportionality. We would have a threshold to say anyone that passes the threshold, you get a seat on the table in the house. And so the higher the threshold, then the lesser the winner, and the lower the threshold, the more winners you would have. And how many can lose as few as possible depending on the threshold. What we have been talking about is actually this idea of wasted wood, and this is the same idea that I'm going to drive through the lecture. So this is the first 2 you have to remember. Like in the 2024 American presidential elections, the winners are both Trump and the 74.7 million voters who supported him. And the losers, not just Harris, but also the 71 million voters. And we're going to continue to see all this reason why we emphasize on wasted wood. Now, here this section, we're going to explain what electoral system is based on 5 elements. First of all, when you talk about electoral system, remember we are talking about a mechanism that translates votes to seats, not other administrative issues like how much you can spend for the candidate, how old can you start voting, and so on. Those are not related to this case. So like a coffee machine, when you throw in coffee bean, you get coffee powder. Here, you throw in votes, you're going to get seats. But unlike the coffee machine, some of the votes would never get translated into seat. This is exactly what we have just learned, wasted votes. So the 5 elements we're going to look at, one is electoral formula, second is magnitude, which is the number of seats in a constituency. The third is ballot type. The fourth is objects of ballots. The 5th is the number of ballots. Now, what we have talked about, plurality, majority, proportionality, you can look at this hypothetical example. So for plurality, you don't need to win the maximum, and majority you don't have to win a majority. For majority, you must be larger than everyone combined. And proportionality is depends on what is the threshold. Here, you can see we have 4 winners. It's because the threshold must be lower than 10%. And if we further lower it down to 2%, then this player 2.32 would also become a winner, would also get a seat, even though it's much smaller. You reduce to 1, then everyone's here would win. On the other hand, if you raise it to 12%, then this guy, 10.36, would not win. So that's what you mean by a different formula. And then this is the impact on their wasted wood. In plurality, there's no cap at all. In majority, it's 50% minus 1. In proportionality, it will be minimized because we want to get as many people in as possible. The second element is magnitude. Magnitude is number of seats. So we basically have only two groups of electoral system using this criteria to divide them. One is single member constituency, you only one person. The other is multi-member constituency. Now, if you have single member constituency, the options you could have for electoral formula would be limited to plurality and majority. You cannot have proportionality. To have proportionality, you need to have multi-member constituency because you can't divide one person in single-member constituency to several parties. Next, we look at the three elements of electoral system. And all these are actually appears on your ballot structure, on how your ballots are designed and used. The first is the type of ballots. Do you actually pick a name to support? If yes, that's nominal. Or do you actually rank the candidates by your first, second, third preference and so on? That is ordinal. As you can see on the left, the one that make a cross, that's nominal, and the one with the number, that's ordinal. Numerical is not common in the political world. It's more common in commercial world, in the commercial world when shareholders votes, for example. The second question is that, so the second ballot-related element is the objects of the ballots. For whom you vote. Is it individuals or groups? Finally, the number of votes. How many? One? A same number as the number of candidates? Or same number as the magnitude, meaning the number of seats to be filled? Now, we have we're going to now look at four electoral systems. The first system is called first past the post. This is very, very basic. This is a system you use. It's very intuitive. It's just like horse race. It has one single, one ballot, you have one person to elect, one seat to fill, one ballot, and the electoral formula is plurality. The ballot is nominal, and you're voting for individual. It has a strong potential to result in high wasted wood, and that would trigger strategic voting. Hopefully we can cover that in time. Now, applications in legislative elections, if you have a parliament you use for suppose, then you would have many local constituency, and therefore for the voters and the politicians, local issues and constituency services are important. Parties to win in first past the post, you not necessarily the large parties, but the parties with optimal concentration, meaning that you want to just get the right percentage of your voters in a constituency. If the voters are too concentrated, then you win less than you could. On the other hand, if it's too scattered, then you may not win anything because your voters do not constitute a majority or plurality in those constituencies. This will lead us into gerrymandering that produce overall disproportionality. Disproportionality means that the value of the votes cast for one party is different in terms of value from another vote cast for another party. As if like the same notes you have in hand, some banknotes can buy more goods than yours do. Okay, the system is likely to produce fewer parties, which we're going to look at it when we look at strategic voting. And very likely, there's a good chance you may have a two-party system, a bipartisan. Now, what we're going to look at next is actually gerrymandering. Gerrymanderings come from a 19th century story, I think, is the governors of Massachusetts, that he had the officer draw the constituency in an odd shape, looked like an animal called salamander, and his name is Jerry. Therefore, people coined that term to describe this kind of malpractice. What is this malpractice? It is not about manipulations of electorate size. In Malaysia, in Selangor, the largest constituency is Bangi, where UKM and UKM is placed, and it has 300,000 voters. Within the same state of Selangor, the smallest constituency is Sabak You have only 50,000. So when you have a different size, that's called malapportionment. It's manipulating the electorate size, the voter size. Gerrymandering can happen even without malapportionment, meaning even you can draw up constituency that's equal sign, you can still manipulate it because you're manipulating the composition. So let's start with the map on the left. Assume that at the beginning you have a community consisting of 50 people and 60% of them are orange and 40% are purple. So how can we draw 5 constituency out of this? There are 2 ways to draw. One way is that you would produce a fair outcome, meaning the percentage of representative from orange would befit their percentage in population. So in this case, it's 3:2. How you can draw, look at it. You could either draw into long strip of columns. You get that because you have 3 long strips of orange. Or you could draw it differently as the map in the middle. You could still have 3 orange and 2 purple. However, if you draw it in the 4th map from the left, whereby you create situations where every constituency has exactly the same ratio of the overall population, then the majority will win every seat. So you would have 5 representatives from orange and none from purple. However, you could also draw it in such a way that the purple, the minority, actually have more seats than the orange one. So in this case, orange, despite being the demographic majority, they only got 2 seats, while purple get 3. And what we have to remember is this, there is a saying in democracy, voters choose politician. In gerrymandering, politicians choose voters. Some of you might have followed the New York mayoral elections. We get Mr. Mamdani elected. The New York mayoral elections use first past the post just like ours. But in New York and in most elections in America, the party actually has primary. Primary is pre-elections or first round election for the members of the party to elect their candidates. In New York, Democratic and the Republican primaries are conducted by their election commission called New York City Board of Elections. So this is how the ballots look like. Look at the top left. It's a bilingual ballot. On this part is on mayor. And every voters, you have 5 columns here for you to mark. It's not for you to mark everyone across the line here or here. What they want you to do is to signal which is your first choice, which is your second. So you have up to 5 choices. And to win, you need to get 50%. How do? They basically get people to count their first preferences. Like from here, you look at the first row, who would want to be, you count this, and then you eliminate the candidates who are weak. How do you know it's weak? You accumulate their votes from bottom. By the time when they cannot overtake the next guy before them, then you know it is weak. So this is how, after the 3rd round, all these were replaced. and their votes were transferred to Mamdani and Kumo, his main rival. So here, I want to ask you, please answer me. Can you see this clearly? If you're not, the slide should be in your, yeah, the slide is in your WhatsApp group. Can anyone tell me what is the percentage of wasted wood in this election? Hello, anyone? Don't be shy. Paul White.
Hi, sir.
Yes, what's the percentage of wasted wood here?
0%?
No,
Is it not?
no. Why do you think it's 0%?
I just look at the percentage of votes and the difference.
Yes.
So
Okay.
I
Let me tell me what's the percentage of votes for the winner.
56.4.
All right. So how many people have lost?
Have lost.
Yeah. If the
Four,
winners,
four.
huh? If the
Sorry,
winners only have 56.4, then what are the
So
percentage of the loser?
43.6.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
the wasted votes under this ranked choice voting.
Oh, okay.
Now, assuming you do not have ranked choice, you would have only round one. Who would be the winner?
The same person will be the winner.
All right, Mamdani.
Yeah.
And what's his percentage?
43.8.
And what's the percentage of wasted?
The percentage of wasted wood is like, okay, terbalik lah. Sorry, cannot count. Means 56.2.
Correct. Well done. So that is how we look at it. Right?
Okay.
So a ranked choice voting, by moving towards the change from first past the post to this, is mainly majority. And when you do this, you actually reduce the wasted wood. You let more people have a say on the final outcome. And this is change. Can you see that? Can you see my cursor? You cannot see my cursor.
Yes, can.
Okay, so you see majority, it changed from majority. How do you do a change from majority? You also change the ballot. Now you ask people to mark, to indicate their preference. So it's become ordinal. Then the third thing is the number of candidates. Here, they only allow you up to 5, but in some system, you can actually fill up all the sequence until the last person. Any questions so far? First part suppose I expect you to understand, but anything about ranked choice voting? Mary, do you understand?
Yes, Prof.
Okay, great. Selamat po. Now, the third system we want to look at is called party block vote, or in Singapore, it's called group representation constituency. Anyone here from the South? I mean, not necessarily Singapore, but anyone from, say, Johor, and therefore familiar with Singapore? No one. Okay. In Singapore, they have this system that they merge first past the post constituency and become a supersized constituency called GRC. So it could be in a GRC today is 4 to 5 MPs. Now, how do you choose these MPs? Their ballots look like ours, except now you're no longer choosing one. You'll be choosing the entire groups of MP candidates. So the formula remains the same. The magnitude now has changed to more than one. The entire ballot remain nominal, but the object of ballot now, you're voting for a party, not individual. Number of ballot is still 1. So it's just a bit of tricking. The outcome is then, why would Singapore want to do this? Because Singapore want to make sure that its parliament would not consist of only Chinese. The reason being, Singapore public housing policy had broken down all the ethnic enclave, meaning you don't have an area that is mainly Malay or mainly Indian. Everywhere you go, the Chinese would be majority. So if you use first past the post and the voters are racist, Chinese, and then the non-Chinese would not get elected. The Singapore government then think that what we can do is to tie a group of constituency together, make it a GRC, and then we specifically designate that this constituency must have a Malay candidate. Another constituency must have an Indian or other candidates. Meaning, if you cannot find a Malay candidates or Indian candidates for that matter, your nomination would be rejected. So by this system, you could ensure a certain percentage of MPs would be from the minorities. But this system has a problem. It greatly disadvantages the opposition. If you're opposition in the past, out of 5 constituencies, you may win 1 or 2 and lose the other 3. And now when the votes are all combined together, very likely you're going to lose all 5. Give me a moment. And therefore, this is not a democratic electoral system, but we can fix it very immediately. Just wait for the next slide. What I want to draw to your attention is that this was set up to ensure minority representation. It was not for the women. But over time, every GRC has got 1 woman, sometimes 2. There's no rule demanding this, but this happened. Can anyone tell me why? Oh, Aisha is not here today. Masitel call.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So Singapore has a group representation constituency system, and without imposing gender quota, it has achieved it. Just very recently, Singapore has got 30% women in their parliament. Why? Could you help us to understand? Just common sense.
Is it to do with the number of seats?
Yes,
Yeah.
but why would that happen? It was very specific that you must have a Malay, you must have an Indian or others, otherwise we wouldn't approve your nomination. But they didn't say that there must be 1 woman or 2. But eventually it just happened that way. Why? Saifuddin,
Hold on, Prof. Is it to appeal to the voters, the wider
why
range of voters?
it's possible, but why this doesn't happen in elsewhere? Like Malaysia, we have more than half of our electorates of women. You have more university graduates are women, but why are the parties not doing the same? Mensitel has a point that this has got to do with the number of seats, magnitude. But you have to explain to me why. Kitchen. Okay, Kahan.
I can think of they need to meet the requirement of 5 seats, and eventually they have more members of female, and then they just pick based on their quality, the education level.
Close, but not clear. Let me explain to you why. When you have only 1 person, you want to put a woman, possible, but not necessary people would actually agree because it's only 1, right? And so when you say you want a certain number of women, but why in my constituency? Why not in somewhere else? However, in a constituency you have 4 or 5 MPs, 4 or 5 seats for you to nominate candidates, wouldn't it become very glaring if all your candidates are men? So the answer is manual. When you have a manual that everyone is man, then it becomes look very obvious. So in this case, the women become the unintended beneficiaries of the GRC system. Now, I say that this system is not democratic. It's not friendly to the opposition. So can we actually want to keep this quota thing, yet we do not want it to be unfair to the opposition? We can do it. This is how you can do it. You basically just change one thing. I'll let you have a look. Look carefully on this little table here on top left. I count up to 5, then I'm going to switch to the next one. I count to 5, and then I come back to ask you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you have a look at this. Now this. Tell me what's the difference. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What's the difference between party block vote and closed list proportional representation? Anyone? Chun? Hata?
Not sure, sir. I prefer the younger people try to answer this.
Mansitel, you're very good in physical class. So what have changed from party block vote to closed list PR?
The electoral formula.
Yes, fantastic. Explain to us what does it mean?
From plurality to proportionality.
Proportionality. So what
Yeah.
does it mean? Let's say in a party block vote, the winner, what happened to the winner? Let's say you have 5 seats. What happened to the winner? Under priority. Okay, let me give you an example, something more concrete. You have a constituency of 5 seats, and this party actually, let's say, is a multi-corner fight that this party get 40% and the other two party get 35 and 25%. Let's say something like this. So what happened to the party with 40% of votes? Anyone? They will take all the seats. They will take all the seats because that this is a priority. As long as you're the largest, you will take all the seats. Now, come to this CLPR. What happened then if it's proportionality? Mary, your upper house, your upper house is first past the post. Your lower house has a second ballot for party list, right?
Sorry,
You
Prof.
remember you go to ballots, you have 2 ballots for your House of Representative,
Huh?
one for party, right?
Yes.
Yes, this is a system. So tell me, if we have the same 5-seat constituency here, the largest party get 40% of the votes, what would happen to the seats? Would this party get all 5?
Sorry, Prof. I didn't follow.
Okay. What I'm saying is that you have a constituency of 5 seats to be grabbed. And you have 3 parties contesting. The largest party has got 40% of votes. In a Singapore GRC, this 40% of party would take all the seats. What happens if it's in the Philippines, where you have a closed list proportional representation component? If a party get 40% of the votes, how many out of the 5 seats would this party get?
Is it 2, Prof?
Exactly. Well done, Saifuddin. It's 2. So can you see the difference? In a Singapore system, as long as you're larger than anyone, you grab everything. But under CLPR, you can actually keep it. right? So let's say the other party one is 35-25, but likely outcome is the second party also get 2 seats, the last party get 1 seat. That would be the situation. So you can tweak a little bit and you're going to get it very different. As in the Singapore case, every party would nominate 5 candidates, right? So over here, you have 5 candidates, and which two of the 5 candidates from this winning party will take up the seats? Hawaii?
Hi, sir.
Yeah. Can you get my questions? You have a party, it has won 40% of the votes and get 2 seats out of 5. And at the time of nomination, it has nominated 5 candidates. So how do they decide which 2 out of 5 to go to parliament?
Those that win,
What?
those that win, that get the most votes.
No, that they're on the same list. There are 5 of them. How do they decide which 2? They only get 2 seats because they got 40% of the votes. So how do they decide which 2 to go to parliament? Do they do 1 twosome?
I don't know, sir.
Okay. Kahan?
I don't know, but I guess within the party they have to select and decide.
Right. Okay, you're very close. What happened is that when you see the list, you would see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? The sequence, who is number 1, number 2, is decided by the party. So with that sequence, the 1 and the 2 would go to take up the seats. Now, what happened if number 2 is not well decided to leave the party? Who would fill out the seat?
Number 3.
Exactly. So what it means is that the order are fixed. You cannot change. Even voters cannot change. Once the party made the decision, you would have to follow this. When they cannot change, it's called closed list. If it can change, that means voters can say, I vote for the party, but I also like candidate X. I want to give him or her more support. That is called open list. We're not going into that. I just roughly want you to know what is a closed list system. This is a ballot of the closed list in Indonesia in 1999. And all the symbols here are different parties. So they have 48 parties. The candidate list is actually somewhere, and people just choose for the party. So in the sense, it's actually very straightforward. Now, what's the advantages to have a closed list PR is that you're going to have more choices, you end up have more parties, and the seat proportionality would be better, meaning that it would be fairer when you compare the weight of every ballot cast.
So,
No
Prof,
party.
I have a question, Prof.
Yes, please.
So, from an argument sake,
Mm.
would we say that the closed list proportional representation is fairer compared to a party block
Oh, yes.
system?
In the sense for party, yes. You notice that I just changed one thing. I just changed the proportionality. Even the ballot can look exactly the same. You see, this is Indonesia because there are many parties and so on, so they put it this way. But let's say if you are in a Singapore situation, you can use the same ballot and then just change how you allocate the seat. Now, how about quota? We'll come to that later, but the same thing is like over there, they will say one of them has to be, because once you get in, everyone gets in, right? So you cannot, you don't worry which position they are. Over here, you have to say you want to make sure there's a minority. You have to put the minority high enough. For example, a minority candidates must have to be on number 1 or number 2, something like this. Then you can keep the quota. At the same time, you would have a system that is fairer for the parties. Now, when you have more parties, one of the things that pop up is that you're going to have issue-based politics. Why so? Why not in other system? If you talk about bread and butter, any system would actually accommodate it because most people care about it. But let's say you want to talk about climate change, or let's say you go something even more less well-known, biodiversity. What happened then is like people who have that appreciation, maybe very small, maybe say 10%, 15%, 10 or 15% in the first past supposed electoral system basically get you nowhere. But if now you combine 5 first past supposed seats into one, you merge them into one, and you just ask for 20, 10%, 15, 20%, easily you could find a party that actually garner that kind of support. Then they would be able to enter the parliament. They would be able to talk about the issue they care about. And we're going to look at it, if we have time, on Green Party. Now, the disadvantage is that you could have a system with many parties. That's what we call a fragmented party system, and some of them could be extremists. This is how we actually have changed. You see, if I, from first past supposed to rank choice order, what's the main thing that I changed? We changed from plurality to majority, which affect the ballot to become ordinal, and in turn also require to give more votes. So you count every preference as one, so you get more ballots. Now, if you go down here, what you change is from magnitude from 1 to many, and therefore your object of ballot change from individual to group. If you move from here, you just really move this one, plurality to proportionality. That's it. So you can turn the electoral system around like toy. Now, any questions about this part? Good. We do not only that we can play with the electoral system, we can even combine them. So you can give voters 2 ballots. We're not talking about federal and state. We are talking about for federal, you get 2 ballots. So 1 ballot, you would vote for your constituency MP under first past supposed. The other ballots, you vote for party list MP under CLPR. And they go to parliament, they have different function. Constituency MPs have to take care of the local constituents. Party list MPs often are issue champions or specialists. So the idea is that they bring a certain knowledge or skill or passions to the house. And they don't deal with the local issues like your pothole, your drainage, and so on. And there are many ways to combine this. If you have a majoritarian system, that's been plurality or majority, and a proportional representation system combined, it's called mixed member system. If the majoritarian one, like first past supposed, is more dominant, then it's called mixed member majoritarian, MMM. If proportional representation is more prominent, then it becomes MMP, mixed member proportional. Now we're going to look at a real case just next to us, Thailand. Thailand has an MMM electoral system. Their parliament has 500 members. 350 members are elected from first past supposed. Another 150 from CLPR. And the CLPR has no individual constituency. The whole nation's the votes will be put together. But in counting the votes, you can still separate from one particular province which parties more people support. This is first past supposed. This is party list. As you can see here, there are more parties. But when you come to party list, only 4 parties. This is former Prime Minister Thaksin Party. This is the youth-based Move Forward Party like our Muda, but much more powerful. This is a Conservative Party. This is a Patani Malay Party. So you see, in first past supposed, small party, local parties can get votes because over there in Thailand, these are the people who serve, these are the politicians who serve the people, and they may not even want to play up their party logo because the party are not so popular. But when you come to party votes, then These are the major national parties that get most support. These are not everywhere, but this is the largest party in the constituency for party list, and this is for first past the post. And what's most significant things is that the red and the orange, here, they were almost the same sign, but the orange is more popular everywhere else. So they got 10 more they got 10% more votes and 10 more seats as well. That make them the largest party. They almost formed a government, except they were blocked by the military-controlled Senate. But that's a different story. Now, if you're going to have, can we actually have this in Malaysia? It's possible we can do 2 ballots. And then, but let's say because Malaysia, the states are more important, we would not use a nationwide constituency, we just use this. And let's say in Thailand it's 7-3, 7 first past the post, 3 for party list. Here we make it simpler, 2-1. So what you're going to have is 2 tiers of constituency. In Selangor, you're going to have 22 first past the post constituency that would elect 1 MP each. And you have a closed list PR constituency that would elect 11 MPs together. Can you see the difference? You have 2 ballots. You imagine that your constituency has 2 tiers and you're going to have 2 types of MP. Now we can use even a G15 result to simulate what's the outcome. So in first past the post, only 2 parties or 2 coalitions won, PH16 and PN6. If you use the first past the post votes and assume the people then would vote for the same party in their CLPR ballot, then you would be able to allocate the seats based on this. And PH would get 6, PN get 3, and BN get 2. So you could see that the disproportionality, the positive disproportionality that PH enjoy get reduced a bit, and BN get to be represented now. Is this clear for everyone? This is how what we imagine here. This is the election outcome, but they have a system. I say if you assume the system here, this is what you're going to see. Is everyone clear? So far, we have covered all the electoral system already. No. We have looked at so many electoral systems. How do you know which is the best? The answer is there's no perfect system. We basically pick imperfections that best suits our needs. That's it. But overall, you can compare a majoritarian system and a proportional system, something like whether to buy insurance or to buy lottery. If you believe your luck is good, like what happened when you buy lottery, let's assume that the government would be good. They are both smart and good. So benevolent autocracy. What happened then? A majoritarian system would be good for you. Why? Because the majoritarian system would give government more power. The government can make very decisive questions, provided they don't do harm. This is probably more efficient outcome. On the other hand, if you feel like I'm never so sure about my luck, because sometimes bad things just happen to me, I want to be a bit more careful, then a proportional system might be better, because a proportional system would allow many parties to emerge. Then you would have more negotiation, and this, in turn, maybe protect your interests better. Now, we're going to go through very quickly. If you have a first past the post system, what do you expect of the wasted wood, high or low? If we have a first past the post system and CLPR, which one would generate more wasted wood?
I would say the first past the post.
All right. So what it means is then you stand a chance to lose out everything, right? That forces people to become much more rational, using their brain and say, if the candidate I really support, let's say PSF, never have a chance to win, then I look at the top 2. and say, well, maybe one is less worse than the other. Let's choose the lesser evil. When you drop the party you like, you go and pick a not so bad party that has a chance to win. That's called strategic voting. Now, this process would kill off many smaller parties because they won't get the votes. On the other hand, if you have a list PR system, Kahan, what happened to the wasted vote? Kahan? Would you have
No,
many or
digesting.
fewer? Huh?
No,
Okay.
no, I am digesting. Yeah.
Okay. Would you have, if you have a list PR, very proportional, big party get more seats, smaller party get some seats, what's the percentage of complete loser? Would it be a lot? Okay.
Not really. Yeah.
Not that a lot. So what it
Mm.
means is that people who want to vote for a small party, they can vote for the small party. When you follow your heart, that's called sincere voting. And naturally, you're likely going to have more parties, and very likely none of them will get a majority. Next thing you would have is a coalition government. So this is how electoral system impact everything. Now this part is a bit sophisticated. I'm going to leave it to the video. Now let's look at gender quota. Very quickly, this is from Inter-Parliamentary Union. They show you the percentage of women in a elected national parliament. And if we look at the electoral system, I've talked to you about MMM and MMP, list PR. Two-round system means first past the post going 2 round. So when you look at this, you would find that only 3 countries that do not have multi-member constituency. The rest all have multi-member constituency. Why is this so important? Just now we talked about it in Singapore. When you have many constituency, it's easier for you to impose a quota. Is it clear for everyone? Now, let's show you this. On the left-hand side is first past the post. You want to put in 30% women, so that's 12, right? And 30% is 4 seats. How do I pick which 4 seats? The person I pick may not be accepted by the voters, so therefore it will be very hard for the party to do. But if you have a party list, you could say every 1 out of 2 has to be women. So between 1 and 2, 1 woman. 3 and 4, 1 woman. 5 and 6, 1 woman. 7 and 8, 1 woman. And you want to make sure that women would never get less than 1/3. Start with women first. So 1, 3, 5, 7. Regardless of where you put the candidates, the women's on top would always get to win. The only difference is how strong the party support is. If the party get all 8 seats, you have 4 women. If the party get only 5 seats, then you have 3 women. Is that clear? In Malaysia, can we actually introduce party lists alongside first past the post like Thailand? Unfortunately, cannot, because our constitution prohibits single member constituency. So what you can do at the state level, you can actually appoint assembly person, and you can allocate them based on the vote shares from the party state elections and so on. Now, I wouldn't have time to go to detail. I would encourage you to look at this. The early part, this is actually almost an electoral issues. Unfortunately, no one is pursuing now, but you can have a look in Sabah because they have 6 seats. And immediately after election, you will find that the seats would get fewer. This is designed on how to make sure a state like Penang can attend 30% women representation. You basically just fill it up until you get 30%. And the process is democratic. You can allow voters to actually have a say. Still, but I wouldn't have time to go through that. And the last one is that why is this is Green parties in Europe. You can see that this is a number of ministers. So many of them actually have entered national cabinet, and some has over time become more popular, others have become less popular. The questions that I want to ask is that why are Green parties so successful in some European country? There are many reasons, but one of the things that has been pointed out in this old paper in 1998 is proportional representation system. Why? If you have about 20% of support, in the first past the post, you're simply too small. So you make no difference. You are just wasted wood. But if you are in a PR system, 20% could mean you take 1 seat out of 5 or 2 seats out of 10. So you are somewhere. When you can enter the parliament, you can then influence it. So this is why Green parties was more successful in countries with PR. It's not a sufficient condition, meaning it alone doesn't guarantee you will be successful, but it is a necessary condition. Without this, almost have no chance. Just have a look at Great Britain. You look at the number, you'll find that it's very small. Okay, this is what we have to cover, and this was a question to discuss. You can answer it during in the groups and so on. We basically cover this. Any questions? Any questions so far? If no, then hope to see you next week. Next week, we will talk about the unelected state institution, both the independent one like judiciary and technocratic regulators, and also the unelected supportive one like the bureaucracy. All right, thank you everyone. I have to go.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you, Prof.
You're most welcome. If you are interested
Prof.
in Sabah politics, tonight 8:30 I would be on Awani.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Prof.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
Prof.
I'm going for an interview now. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank
Good
you.
weekend, everyone.
You too. Bye-bye.